Do you guys know how fast NetEase works? That's what I mean by we don't know how good it is. We have it here. Do you know that NetEase works way more hours than most Western companies?
I love crunch. They deserve to work ridiculous hours for barely any pay. Screw them. We are so fortunate to have basic slave labor making our video game. Haha, screw them.
They probably don't even see their family some days.
What's the point here? So good that we can import all these really cheap goods. Man, let's not think about the slave labor that's gone into making them.
So it's like they're already crunching. You're basically asking for like literally work camp level labors because you're not happy with your balance numbers. Do you see how that's like kind of insane?
You know what I mean?
How dare you ask them for any standards? They're too busy shoveling the shit. No, they're asking for new maps. And you're asking for them to die at their desks. No, they're saying they're not very happy. And you're saying, yeah, what does it matter, right? Okay, let's go.
This is my dude, Samju. That's my guy right there. We were literally like 10 viewer streamers together back in like 2020. But he made this tweet yesterday. Sorry, actually it was 2 days ago because it was late that day. I know I'm not a big streamer, so my word probably doesn't mean shit, but please can we, for one season, stop with the new heroes and focus on new maps, in comp and actual balance changes. Like, it's so boring playing the same maps all day versus the same poke comps at Marvel Rivals. And then I saw...
Does Marvel Rivals have bad balance at the moment? From what I can work out, it's got bad balance all the time, but the problem isn't the bad balance. The problem is that Marvel Rivals is a slop game, doesn't intend to have good balance. It's not like it plans towards balance. It's like the design is bad, right? And even if it is unbalanced, it's like, it's unbalanced, but it's always been unbalanced. It's not that bad. And yeah, I guess what are we talking about when we talk about balance? Probably the rate of different things being relevant in the game, which I guess if it's a poke, I get it.
Yesterday responded and retweeted it and was like, average size streamer here. I concur. And I thought this wasn't going to be somewhere I wanted to do Twitter, because Twitter is just a cesspool and you can't have a...
What do you mean stop with the new heroes? That's the only reason people actually play Rivals. Stop with the new heroes. Man, you don't know what room you're in.
A nuanced conversation on Twitter. It's genuinely possible. But I've seen this sentiment a lot recently where people are like...
Oh, flats in the training room. Oh God, we're about to have it with all 4 barrels.
You know, fed up with balance and...
So, why does he always make it so loud every time?
Fed up with like whatever. And it's like, we need to just like slow the content down and we need to like focus on these other things. And without even getting into the nitty-gritty...
Yeah, that's never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. Balance is subjective.
Yeah. We know,
right?
I do love the takes off glasses, cleans glasses, looks up at the camera like he's got something very intelligent to say. Did you know, friends, some people consider balance to be different things?
2 people
agree
agree on balance, unless it's one character. If you tried to talk about the entire roster,
I guess he's talking to Rivals players, so you kind of have to baby them.
You could never get 2 people to agree. Even pro players, bronze players, you could not.
No. It depends what we're talking about. When you say balance, it doesn't fucking mean anything, so that's why nobody agrees. If you say the relative play rate of these characters in this rank, you're just not being specific enough, and that's why people don't agree for the most part. Most of the time, people's opinions are within a general ballpark of each other, apart from, obviously, there's outliers, but for the most part, ballpark opinions are about the same.
Get 2 people to agree, because they will always have different experiences.
They'll always have different experiences. Yeah, but there are objective things to be known about what the heroes and the abilities and other things like that do. Yes, people will perceive them in different ways. People will be frustrated by different things. Sure, yeah, that's true. But however, there are some things to be done, right? If we say there's too much poke in the game, that can be true, that can be untrue. That is a value statement and not a objective fact, regardless of how much poke there is in the game. But the community can generally agree that there is too much poke in the game, and there can be concrete actions to take in order to make that better, or to reduce the prevalence of poke and allow other things into the meta.
So the only thing that you can technically make sure that everyone agrees on is data, right? You can look at data.
Yeah, okay, but what are the goalposts at? Technically make sure everyone agrees on, right? Like, you're just using a lot of words to say, well, I'll have you know, we can never be 100% sure of everything, Mr. Debater, and therefore you cannot be sure of that state. Okay, right, all right.
And say, this person has a lower win rate, 47%.
But that's horribly misleading for the most part.
The other person says that 47%, they look at the data and go, yep.
You still need to interpret that.
It's also 47. So they can both agree it has a negative win rate, which is lower than 50%, which is low. Both people can agree on that.
I think it's more objectively true for both people to say, man, this ability does a fuckload of damage, right? Because that's generally more applicable all the way up in terms of ranks. If you look at the win rate data, sure, people can agree on the win rate, but people can take different interpretation from that. You get one layer away from just saying, hey, that's a fact, and people are already off the deep end. So like, but I don't even know why you care, because it doesn't really matter.
Now, after looking at that though, you could both look at the same character with a negative win rate though, and say, does that character need to be buffed then? Statistically, it's like, well, if we want to get it closer to 50%, most of the time it should have a chance to win every game if you play well on the character. But if you don't, like, you're gonna, like, if it has such a low win rate, Black Widow is a good example because she has like 39% or something like that. Statistically, you're gonna lose most of your games you pick Black Widow just because she's not as good.
That's what we're talking about when we talk about win rate.
Does that mean they need a buff?
Yeah. A
lot of times the answer is no.
Yeah. If you, I mean, they need a buff if you want the character to have a certain prevalence in the game. They need a buff if you want the character not to be a very low win rate character, no matter what. But it seems bad to have a minefield of character selection screens, where some of them significantly worse than other ones at all ranks. Apart from like the very, very high of GM, I would assume Black Widow goes a bit higher there, but probably not too much because they seem to be fundamentally just badly designed. Now the trouble here isn't really the balance. The trouble is this character is ass designed, ass in general. The character's bad. Everything about it's bad. Is probably irredeemable, and therefore we should do something about it. Now, it's so funny that the Rivals has managed to get around the problem of snipers by making their snipers so terrible they are literally unpickable. It's crazy. Isn't Widow's win rate kind of inflated because people take her to throw games? Sure, but you could also say Widow's win rate is, you mean deflated, but you could also say Widow's win rate is inflated by the fact that it's at a low pick rate, and therefore characters that have a low pick rate tend to have specialists on the characters that are more used to the characters, and that tends to make it a little bit higher. So it can kind of go either way.
It's actually not what they don't need a buff. I think a good example of that is Strange Mag.
No, let's talk about Widow. Does Widow need a buff or not need a buff? You can say Widow's unhealthy as a character and therefore doesn't need a buff. But if we're saying that Widow's a character that we want in the video game, they do.
Emma.
Strange Mag,
All
Emma. Okay.
Have negative win rates. I think a lot of times people pick them to try to fill on those roles, and they're not actually good at it, and they think it's easy to play those. Cloak and Dagger is actually a good example as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of effects you have to account for. Like, there's the Kiriko effect, where loads of people swap to Kiriko when they're losing. Same with Moira in Overwatch. That's a thing. There's win more characters that have an inflated win rate. There's also lose less characters that have a deflated win rate. These are all things we take into account before we work out whether something better or worse.
And then they don't play it optimally, and they lose, and they contribute to that win rate.
Yeah, that's true.
And so balance is both data and an art.
An art? No, it's just interpretation of data. Calling it art to interpret the data properly, let's be honest, it's more of a science than anything else. So you can say that data is maths, balance is science, and creating kits and interesting stuff like that is a combination of science. And art, and the actual art is art, like, right?
And here's where the whole thing kind of falls apart a little bit.
Now, what is balance, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we know what we're talking about, Flats.
Like I said, love Sanju. That's my guy right there. This game relies on the casual base to come back and play every season and enjoy the new heroes. Yeah,
because they pour more feed into the trough, so that you do need they can't reduce the amount of heroes being released, because you have a game that just releases a steaming pile of content every now and again. Everyone comes back to it,
especially the new hyped heroes,
because it doesn't really have a good gameplay loop, because it wasn't made to have a good gameplay loop in the first place.
That is what keeps this game going.
Yep,
this game isn't supposed to be hyper balanced.
It's not about the balance, Flats. It's about the gameplay loops. It's about the health of the game in general. It's not made to be healthy. It's not made to have good gameplay loops. It's made to have attractive characters to play for the first 5 hours, and that is pretty much it. After the 5 hours you've spent on a certain hero, if you already know the general gameplay loop, you probably are already bored. That's not to say that they do nothing right. That is to say that the overriding gameplay loops actually hamper anything that they do correctly.
It's not supposed to do that. If you do that, a lot of characters that people enjoy playing would not be as strong, but all
you can't nerf Kiriko, because Kiriko has to do everything because of the most popular character in the game, etc.
Also, at the same time though, you're in an area where those people are currently not happy either.
Listen, man, the fact that the gameplay feels good to play due to balance has nothing to do with player retention. Not as well. The vast majority of people that play Rivals only really feel the gameplay to a point where they don't really know what's going on. It's hard to argue, and I'm happy to argue it, that people don't stick around with Rivals because there's really nothing there, and they can feel that even if they can't put their finger on not even why, but they can't even put their finger on what is wrong. So yeah, sure.
If you scrolled through, or you asked the average support player, let's say for example, how do they feel right now playing against Dive? A lot of them will be like, I f***ing hate it. This is the same.
Yeah, because the support players in Rivals have been baby to a ludicrous degree. Hell agreed. Basically have the most survivability of any game of this genre, and they have pretty much the most damage at this point as well, and they have incredibly powerful ultimates that kind of do everything. Yeah, they got nerfed, but I mean, the support player base has been baby to a ludicrous degree, and the tank player base has kind of been sent out like the sacrificial lamb of the audience, and that's kind of like the only. I don't know why they baby the support player base to such a degree. I guess they just spend a lot more money than the DPS or the tank player base, but they didn't really do well with the tank player base in the first place, since they shipped out Rivals with like 5 tanks available. It wasn't literally, I think it was like 6 or 7, but still, like, proportionally there was like 2.5 times the amount of DPS that there was tanks. They literally looked at Overwatch, was like, hey, that's a really good formula to copy. Let's not make the say, oh shit, we're tripping over the first hurdle already. Ah shit, we did the thing that they did, the first thing that anyone who had investigated the other game would ever advise not to do, which is to make DPS ludicrously more numerous than the tank role. Yeah.
Season, by the way, season 8.5, that loading in, everyone said Dive is dead. And I could show you 10 or 15 streamers where I saw that made tweets or videos saying this is going to be the worst season ever.
The trouble with Dive in Rivals is Dive is a very breakpoint focused playstyle, whereas with Overwatch it's a space focused playstyle. So in Rivals, obviously Rivals does have some form of space control, don't get me wrong, that is the fundamentals of the genre, but in Rivals you're trying to hit things all at once before they press buttons, because the buttons will override the stuff you can do for a couple of seconds because they have such ridiculously strong peel. So you're there to force cooldowns and then kill them either after or before they hit their cooldowns. So kind of like what Dive does. So Dive's this incredibly sharp line of play style which supports just thinkers complete ass, quite frankly. It's just not very enjoyable to play against because, quite frankly, it isn't. They've been baby to a ludicrous degree. The supports are up here, and so the Dive sharpness has to be up here. Whereas realistically, if the supports were down here and the DPS were down here as well, you'd be in a situation where it would matter what space the DPS could take, and you'd be about moving away from them and doing damage as they got to you, and kind of like playing around those cooldowns in like a more complex way. Right now it's very one-dimensional every single engagement.
Rivals hates their Dive players, hates melee. We're back to poke Slop. We're back to Slop.
Yeah, we are back to poke Slop because that's the only sustainable, and people in all of these games like poke Slop. That's what people choose for the most part. They want a poke / brawler hybrid for the most part every time. Like, people literally choose Circuit on Overwatch, one of the most universally acknowledged to be bad maps in the game, simply because it is more linear than other maps. People like linear stuff, people like staring down main, people like generally being safe in the backline, and that's why I think it's so bad that Overwatch has actually done the opposite of what the general lower level or consumerist audience actually wants to play. Main issue is numbers. Nothing dies if looked at by a support and instantly crumbled by the damage if they don't. 100%. Of course. Everyone knows this, that has played Rivals for even a couple of seconds. So yeah, we can't have Dive be really strong without nerfing supports and without changing pretty much the whole paradigm of the game. So we end up in poke, which the supports like, the DPS generally like, and the tanks think is fine-ish, because quite frankly, I mean, there's only like 3 tank players in Rivals anyway.
Slop, and then it ends up not being true at all.
And ironically, I asked the coach of Sentinels, he coached me in Overwatch, and I asked him if support gameplay is FNAF, and he said, yes, it is. Just react to everything. Perfect. Yes. Don't proactively control space. Just make sure you press your reaction button properly and out. Yeah. Okay. We don't want to be out dueling there. We want to be space controlling. We want to be standing in the correct place if we want to be doing stuff that is based on the map. Because if you don't have your gameplay based on the map geometry, your game's fucking boring, because the vast majority of the distribution of different experiences that you get in these type of games are based on the different maps that you get in these type of games. That's like the main variable.
Daredevil is still a permaban every game, and I've come to realize that balance in Rivals doesn't mean anything. No matter how.
It does. It does mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, it doesn't mean anything because the gameplay's trash, you could say. I'm happy for you to say that.
How much they change numbers, it doesn't matter. Daredevil just got his like 19th round of nerfs, and they were pretty strong this time, and he's still permad. You know who also got a big round of nerfs?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that community sentiment lags actual balance.
Gambit. You know who's still perma-banned? Gambit.
It might be because they're ass to play against in terms of enjoyability.
Someone actually brought up how bad Operation Health was for Siege. I played Siege during Operation Health. That was ass. They spent a whole season.
Is this Operation Health thing? Anyone describe Operation Health? Dedicated 3-month initiative in Rainbow Six, fixing critical bugs, revamping core tech, and improving server stability. Sounds great.
Trying to fix the game. And you know what happened? It was worse at the end. It was legitimately
I can't comment on Siege. I'm pretty out of the loop. I played Siege for probably about 20 hours.
worse. And the thing that frustrates me whenever I see stuff like this in
It
general.
was a season with 0 content release, but every patch was to fix and rework stuff. But surely you should be expecting to see the benefits of doing that maybe like 6 months to a year after doing it, because everything's more stable and better, right? Like you're building a foundation to work off. A season like that is pretty much like that's purposely like a sequel, isn't it? Like you're rebasing.
Is nobody can articulate what they want specifically unless they literally want to kill something. That's the only thing anyone knows how to articulate, is how to kill something. That's it. Nobody has anything else. I agree that we should have more maps. I agree that maybe there should be a map voting system. I agree that sometimes I load in and I play the same map back-to-back games. That shit's...
We don't have time. We're too busy producing stuff. They need to keep the trough full. Don't you understand, player base? The trough is empty and the players aren't coming back. So we can't stop to make a map voting system. How dare you say that? Instead, we will shovel.
Boring.
And shovel and shovel.
I don't think you need a whole season to figure out how to make that not happen anymore.
I mean, he's right, by the way. Like, you don't need to do a complete abandonment of your... it's actually normally different developers that do the system stuff as anything else.
I think there's a lot of ways that you can get around that while keeping up the consistent content that the game already had.
The issue is that Ubisoft didn't change stuff well or for the health of the game. The gameplay was worse for a while after Operation Health. I'll take your word for it.
I really sometimes get a little frustrated, like, because people not realize how good we have it with this game. And I'm not saying you shouldn't ask for it to be better. I think you absolutely should. And I'll be an advocate for that every single time. But how often I see people asking for stuff or blaming stuff or saying like, oh, like, you know, I wish like we didn't do this or whatever. And it's like, this is what other games beg for. We get a balance patch every month, right? Which granted, I even think the balance patches should be more aggressive. But let's speak on balance specifically. I have literally seen every season people say, oh, the game hasn't changed at all.
Oh, yeah, which seems pretty much true because the general gameplay loop of Rivals isn't really changeable without doing a lot of things to it. The game doesn't really change. It's pretty much the same.
Oh, the game hasn't changed at all. It's the same meta every season. Where? Hulk was insane when the game first came out. Since then, no
one really has a finger on the pulse of why Rivals feels horrible. They just know that it is. I feel like my why is Rivals gameplay so terrible video actually is standing the test of time. But yeah, this one here, this one, which was literally just a conversation with Rumbot. I feel like this can exist. Went really well, and as just a conversation with a Peppa Pig edit at the start.
I am ready to put on a show.
God, I fucking love making Peppa Pig edit.
It makes me feel tired.
Machine gun on.
Do you not like this music? No.
So good.
And the sun on your leaves. You're a tree.
Very good, children.
It's such a good intro. I love that one. I love making that one. It's so much fun making Peppa Pig edits. Anyway, yeah, I feel like that video was very good. I outlined all the problems. I went through for an hour and 15 minutes, basically from the start to the end of all the things that are causing Rivals gameplay loop to be bad. It flows so well as a conversation, and yeah, like it is actually a full explanation of all the problems with Rivals as a game. So, I mean,
not been insane almost ever. He's been
Just
strong
stood the
here and
test
there,
of
but not
time.
been insane.
Always been
Straight
true.
was insane when the game first came out. he's been decent since then and good and bad in certain situations. Cap was horrendous when the game came out. Then he was insane. Then he was shit for a long time. Then he made a comeback. Then he was bad again. And then more recently is good again. Groot was not very good when the game first came out. Then he went to not.
But does it really matter if these individual characters are better or worse, since they all do the fucking same thing for the most part? They're all like the dive things on the back line that aren't interactive, or characters can generally stand on the front line and span the back line to create some piercing damage into it. Like that's basically it. Or they're like anti-dive characters, which is possibly the worst archetype you can make in the tank role. It's like
very good. And then he's come back, and then he went away. Then he came back, and then he's been kind of solid.
Or alternatively, with rivals, they are tanks that have a ridiculous amount of tank hate in their kit, which they love to make.
Since Venom, I don't think has ever had a hard meta outside of like there was one season, well, I think 1.5 season he was really strong. Like where they changed like the damage team up, where you could one shot through support ults. There was one half season Venom was insane. Mag has almost.
Did we really like being able to one-shot through support ults when that was the kind of like the whole gameplay loop? was it good that we just had these combo generator characters? The only thing that mattered wasn't the general gameplay. It was just you being able to pull out your trump card when the enemy pulled out their trump card. Was that good, or did we want more neutral gameplay?
Consistently always been strong. Hasn't been hard meta for a long time. We're really upset about the rework, and then since then they buffed him a ton. And then more recently, in the last, not recently, like 2 months ago, and before that, he was strong for a solid 3 or 4 months. And then more recently, I think he's fallen off a bit more. Penny had multiple seasons of being shit. Gave her a team up, she became insane. They took it away, she fell off again. More recently, the last season or two has been really good. Like that's just the tanks.
Back to
one of the DPS, right?
Program.
Punisher's had seasons on and off where he's been really good. Storm has only had 1 season, to be fair, where she's been good. Hawkeye's had multiple seasons where he's been good, maybe like 2 or 3. Hela has had multiple seasons where she's dominated and then been solid ever since.
But none of this matters. Right, you're just talking about what characters are currently in the meta. Like, the gameplay loop should be good at a base level. If people are complaining about the gameplay of the game, it's probably because gameplay loop isn't good and not because the meta's bad for the most part, right? Like, are we going to get there? We're going to get there flat? So talking about what's actually problematic in this game?
EP has had 1 season where he dominated, half season where he did okay, then they gutted him because people went crazy. Magic has always been strong. Moon Knight has had multiple seasons where he's both been insane and shit. He's back to being shit. Squirrel Girl's almost never been good. Black Widow has never been good.
Though Squirrel Girl was very funny when I did the combo thingy with the team up with Spider-Man. You could do the combo team up and then fire, and then do the nest and then fire, and then do the nest and then fire, and that was just insta-kill anyone on the map. That was enjoyable, wasn't it, for other people? That was fun.
Iron Man was good when the game first came out. After that, absolute shit. If you want to talk about these characters not being good, I'm with you. Spidey was really good, then really shit, then came back.
The only good rivals team up was Rocket and Jeff being able to ride Groot, and we kind of knew, right? Like, it's not like anyone was under false pretenses when the game came out that they were going to make a load more things like that. Everyone kind of knew it was going to be stat increasing from here on, because if they could make more things like that, a higher percentage of the types of team ups in the game would have been like that in the first place, instead of just being like, oh, I've got an extra ability that has ice particles on it and slows the enemy, because that's an easy effect to apply.
It was really good, then went back to being shit, and now he's like pretty decent. Always been shit. Bucky, again, multiple seasons where he was really good, and then they nerfed him, and then they rebuffed him to go against dive. Then he was really strong for a long time, and people were calling for nerfs of this guy left and right and center, saying he's insane, even though he had like a 45% win rate. So then they took away all the anti-dive parts, gave him more damage, and now he's more of a kill machine, but you don't see him as often. Star-Lord has almost been strong most of the entire game, but hasn't been hard meta outside
like the Thing Johnny team up. Yeah, really good but funny. I think that's the best thing a team up can be.
Pro play since like season 1 or season 2. Like, he's not like a must pick every game until this season, actually.
Let Anna ride on the back of Reinhardt. I always say when team ups come up, do you think when they did the Overwatch 2 launch trailer and Reinhardt and Brink could interlock shields to make a big shield, that was them thinking about maybe doing team ups in Overwatch at some point?
Or last season. Now he's getting banned. Namor was always insane with the team ups. Without it was handless. Iron Fist has had multiple seasons where he's both good and then bad. Wolf has almost always been. Do you see where we're going, though? Do you see where we're going? Or like every character has either been strong or not strong in the past, outside of a few of the DPS, mostly. Blade, I think out of the DPS, Blade.
He's just going through heroes at this point. There's actually no information here. Thank you, Cyanide. He hasn't proven anything yet? No, he hasn't.
Squirrel Girl,
It's just been talking about whether the meta's actually
Widow.
stagnant.
And then
I mean, the meta can be non-stagnant, but the gameplay's bad.
like a slight tier above that, I'd say Storm have had no seasons where they're strong. Everyone else has had seasons where they're both strong.
Yeah, they have buffed and nerfed things, and the perception of the game is that is more stagnant than it probably is. But if the meta's stagnant in terms of the types of things that are available, if people are saying poke slop, there's a problem regardless of whether the problem's poke slop. People are very good at being canaries, but the canaries don't tell you which gas is killing them. They just tell you they're dying. By dying.
Or meta or close to it. But every season I see the same dog shit where everyone says, oh, it's the same meta. No, it's not.
Different characters, the same shit, different skin.
What are we smoking? And so who's making that narrative? Pros, content creators, Redditors, Twitter users?
I find that the general community consensus tends to be the average of what everyone thinks, and that is including the extra weight that content creators pull by getting their opinion out to more people and convincing more people, and that includes the prevailing narrative of the game, which is obviously shaped by content creators to a certain degree. But the content creators can't really shepherd a ship in the wrong direction very easily. It's hard for the tide to just go in the opposite way than the player base already has sentiment. If the player base has a bit of this sentiment, it's easy to fan the flames, don't get me wrong. You can make it worse in that direction, but it's probably stagnant in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe the fact that people are saying that stagnation is a response to the the community generally just not feeling great about the game.
Making the narrative. Because if it's more of like Redditors, Twitters, like that's probably more people that are like the average player, right? If it's like content creators and pros, that's more of the upper echelons, right? But both of them have had significant changes. It's dive players and content creators. I've seen this war that's happening between the dive players and like the other roles, and I think they're both just absolutely out of line. I'm so sick of it. Like
You're out of line on your internet wars. Okay, all right, nerd.
So sick of seeing every season all these characters are dead and they're all screwed and they're all gone, and then they're not.
The internet is committing hyperbole in my video game. No,
they're fine. Then they're fine. You know, like I think this season a good example is Black Cat. Black Cat actually did.
There's clearly problems, though, Flats.
Get decapitated. Black Cat actually did get decapitated. That's the first one in a long time that actually died from big changes, though. We had to literally shoot Torch in the head 6 times to kill him. We literally had to shoot Torch in that.
He tricked me into liking 6v6, awful person, and I'll fucking do it again. Don't make me.
We had to dump multiple gallons of water on his head to take him down. You know what I mean? Like we're currently doing the same thing to Daredevil, and he refuses to die. He's gotten shotgun blasted at point blank 12 times, but yet everyone says he's dead.
Playing Dive in Marvel Rivals is like playing Dive into Brig, except it's every match. The only reason Dive is good is because distracting supports is such an OP way to win fights. Yeah, it's like playing Dive into Brig Anna. Right, like you got a shitload of stuff to go against. The only way you can really get something into that is by doing stuff before they even then. Overwatch is obviously so much more resource focused.
He's good the next season. Same thing happens on the other side, right? Let's go with Phoenix. Phoenix has gotten multiple nerfs, but guess what? She's still insane. Then they buffed her out of nowhere, and now she's just broken again. But like, it happens every season. So balance is subjective, and I also think that like, can I ask like the question to like. So what Samju's point was, right? And again, this is my guy right here, so I'm not trying to go after him, and like Boger agreed with it too. I just have to ask, do we think they're not focusing on balance every season already? Realistically, do we not think that they're already doing it?
Well, people are just using the wrong language is the answer, and this is probably why the guy that made the video of balance is a myth. Or that balance is not a true thing or a thing to care about, or is it illusory, or is it only based on sentiment and other things like that, is correct, because people like this use balance incorrectly all the effing time. Now, intelligent people use balance to mean the tuning or percentage of play rates of different types of things in your video game. What is a healthy state of the video game? And that's really the redefinition this guy did. He wants balance to be a statement about the health of your game. It needs to be a curated garden. You pull the bad weeds and you let the other plants grow because they can have more sunlight on them. You get the best parts of your video game out into the sun and you let it thrive. Now, bad balance is when the weeds overtake or the bad plants overtake the rest of the garden, and your garden, well, it doesn't die, but it's just shit right? It might be that all the weeds are carefully balanced together, but they're not very pretty, and boy, it's not very good to look at. And that's just rivals. It's pretty well balanced, but it ain't good.
That. Like they have a balanced team. So the team, there's a team on the game that's dedicated to balance, right? There's a team that's dedicated to hero design.
They're carefully trimming the weeds in their garden. They are so careful about how exactly how much of which weed grows. Oh man, they make sure that, you know what, they even give the community ways to change the balance themselves. Do you know the community can actually ban different weeds from the garden temporarily? And it's even better. They can visit the garden and just ban whatever weed they don't like just for that one day. That's amazing. Look at the amount of community control we've given them. It's all shit, but at least you can look at what you want to look at. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Gonna be designed.
And they just roll up once a season and dump fertilizer on the garden full of weeds, and they're like, hey, it's sure growing, isn't it, guys? And we're like, oh, it's overgrowing a little bit though. Are you gonna cut any of this back? It's all a bit out of whack. And they're like, yeah, but I make sure I keep the different weeds to the like same height. I always had I have a hard roof on the ceiling, right? It's just so shit.
Into like the base game, like the engineering team.
And that, my friends, my ladies and gentlemen, was called an excellent analogy.
For like how the game.
And I won't hear anything bad about that analogy.
Design teams for heroes, skins, maps, all that stuff. They all have their own teams. What makes you think if they focused on it for a season and just stopped the other departments, all of a sudden it would be magically fixed?
I don't think it would be. I think that these people don't know the problem, but that you're also whataboutisming the problem, right? You're just saying, it's bad, and there's nothing we could do, instead of saying, it's bad, it's bad.
Fixed.
Actually, you're saying, it's okay-ish, don't worry about it, just keep them releasing new heroes. What's the solution, Flats? What's the solution?
I don't think so. So it's like people say they either need to do it harder or fire the entire.
It's a solution that the community is wrong about being angry about things. It's not so bad, guys. I kind of like the weeds. You know what? Having some weeds isn't that bad. Really, what are standards when it comes down to it? Screw it. They do pour on fertilizer once a week, so I guess there's really no problem.
Balance team. Do you guys know how fast NetEase works? That's what I mean by we don't know how good it is. We have it here. Do you know that NetEase works way more hours than most Western companies?
I love crunch. Those foreigners, they deserve to work ridiculous hours for barely any pay. Screw them. Working standards are not something that I enjoy. You know, we are so fortunate to have basic slave labor making our video game. Ha screw them. So good that they're producing crap for me. The segregation work culture was very strange. What's the point here? Oh man, it's so good that we can import all these really cheap goods. Man, let's not think about the slave labor that's gone into making them.
To say go harder or go faster, they probably don't even see their family some days. They probably sleep in the office. You know what I mean?
How dare you ask them for any standards? They're too busy shoveling the shit. How dare you? They come on regular scheduled delivery of fertilizer. How dare you?
So it's like they're already crunching. You're basically asking for like literally work camp level laborers because
no, they're asking for new maps. They're asking for new maps instead of heroes. They're not
you're not happy with your balance numbers. Do you see how that's like kind of insane? It just feels kind of insane.
You're asking for them to die at their desks. No, they're saying they're not very happy. And you're saying, what does it matter, right? Okay, let's go. Sorry, I forget how much of a little chuckle Flats gives me sometimes. I don't know about you guys, but he's a funny guy. I love him. I'm not asking for work camp arrows. I want them to do what they're paid for in a competent manner. How dare you ask them to die at their desk? They haven't seen their family in weeks. We're so fortunate that these people haven't seen their family. New maps don't save the game. Of course they won't. The person's obviously misidentifying the problem. The problem is the gameplay loop and how they've actually curated the game over a long period of time. The problem is the fact that the game shipped with hero bans and it has very low standards for what he considers a good gameplay loop for any individual hero. It's real problems. There's a mega health pack. Oh, Paulie, yeah, this does exist. Even a little anchor in here. Yeah, you can go down here. That's an option.